All right, welcome into this episode of Farz Cast. Vousoughian here with you. Hope you guys are having a great weekend. Hope you guys are starting to enjoy the outdoors a little bit more, especially with the pandemic, things getting better in the U.S. and hopefully everywhere else out there. So hopefully you guys are doing well, staying safe. Big thanks to my guests from this past week. We had author Melody McAllister joining us on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday, former Chiefs cornerback Eric Warfield was with me as well. So big thanks to those guys for joining us. If you haven't had a chance to listen to those, go check out the podcast on my Facebook page, YouTube for the video versions, and then audio versions are just about everywhere where you can listen to podcasts. Got a lot of exciting guests this month, so make sure you keep it locked right here. Subscribe to the podcast, share it with your friends. But for right now, I'm very excited for our current guest. For those of you seeing the video version, you definitely recognize this guy, 6'6", with the dreads. Everyone recognizes this guy. Play tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs, previously with the Philadelphia Eagles. And he's been doing some podcasting as well, some Chiefs podcasting. We'll get into all of that. Former Chiefs tight end Jason Dunn joining us right now on the podcast. Jason, how are you, man?
Farzin, I'm good, my brother. How you doing? You doing all right?
Yeah, good, man. Good. Good talking to you. I mentioned this to Eric. I had attended a couple of games at Arrowhead. My dad attended one game. My family and I were originally from Iran, just like Marcus Dash, who you did the podcast with. And the very first time all four of us, me, my brother, and my parents, first time all four of us attended a game at Arrowhead was in 2004 when Warfield got a pick six. But yeah, man, you guys during the Dick Vermeil era, you guys are the reason why we got into Chiefs football. I mean, all the things you guys did on offense, and you know, being new to the game of football, because my dad didn't watch football. A lot of kids who grew up here, you know, their parents usually teach them these kinds of things. You know, I had to learn a lot about the sport. You know, what's the difference between a tackle, a center, and a guard, and what makes those three guys different. And I remember one thing about you is a lot of people talked about you, and I didn't really understand the importance of why you were being brought up so much as a backup tight end. But eventually I learned over time, you know, this guy's utilized a lot specifically in this offense because of a blocking tight end. So I learned a lot just watching you guys and getting into football. You guys really got me hooked, and it was really cool to watch you guys. So it's special to talk to you and Eric and other players from that Dick Vermeil era of football here in Kansas City.
Yeah, man. It was an exciting time. I mean, enjoy playing football at that moment, especially under Coach Vermeil. And, you know, actually, I came in under Gunther. Guns the one that brought me in, you know, but that Dick Vermeil era, man, we're talking about just a lot of yards on the ground, you know, in the air. I mean, putting up a lot of points. So it was some really good football being played back then, very fun and exciting football. So I'm glad that we at least were able to introduce you to, I guess, good quality football. Let me put it that way. You know, I think we put out a good product, man. We had some bad boys on the offensive line and all around us, just on the team. So, I mean, if you know, Chiefs fans know this, and we talking about, man, Willie Rofe, Brian Waters, Casey Wickman, Will Shields. You know, we had John Welborn. Cal Turley came in during that time. Well, I think Cal came a little bit after that. You know, me and Tony Richardson, Chief Priest Holmes. Man, let me go through Larry Johnson, Dante Hall, Eddie Kennison, Johnny Morton, Snoop. Man, you name it, man. It was some guys on the squad, man, that was doing a lot of good stuff. And I'm leaving guys' name out there. I mean, I could talk about, you know, Bo Richter, but these guys I just enjoyed playing with, man. It was such a wonderful family atmosphere. And not to mention the defense. So, you know, I'm sure Eric probably named them, but defensively too, man. Those guys, man, I just loved just the quality of character of guys that I played with, the men that were in the locker room. And we every week, man, we gave it our all. And everybody enjoyed every single moment that was in Arrowhead Stadium in front of our fans. And I will say this. I'm going to say this. To me, being at Kansas City was, bar none, one of the best fans and experiences in just being in the stadium in my entire life, period, bar none. You know, so I want to thank the fans for that, for just coming out to Arrowhead, man, and just supporting, us and what we were doing out there, man. We enjoyed doing it. So.
Real quickly, we are broadcasting live on the Facebook page. So a lot of you guys who are listening right now are definitely listening through that. Also, a big thanks to the Real Kansas City Chiefs fans Facebook page. They're also sharing that as well. So we're on there as well. You touched on a lot of things there. And by the way, for those of you who asked questions earlier in the week, I do have some of the questions out. If you're watching live, didn't have a chance to ask a question yet, ask it below, and we'll read through a couple of them and ask a few of those for Jason. You mentioned this, and Eric talked about this and gave us his perspective, being a defensive player. And I know he went through a lot with his back injury, but that 2003 season with all the crazy stuff going on with special teams and offense, and I know the defense was not consistent, and Eric was open and honest about that, but that defense still led the NFL in takeaways that year. From your perspective, what was that 2003 year like for you?
I'll tell you, what we had some high expectations because we just knew what we had. We knew what we had offensively. We knew what we had defensively. Kind of coming into the season. And when guys are playing together, and we're talking about time now where OTAs, and then of course, you get into the summer camps, the mini camps. You see what is out there on the field. You see what is playing beside you, and you see what's on the other side of the ball. So we had high expectations. I mean, that season, when I say about it, is when we came in. One thing that we knew, and we always want to say you're extensions of your coaches, and so Coach Tramiel was very, very sure about listen, look, we got a chance to do this thing. We got a chance to win a championship this year. Here's the rules. This is how we're going to do it. Put the plan in motion, and let's get it done. And so with Al Saunders, just offensively, what he was able to do as far as getting the guys put in order and in pieces, man, like I said before, man, we knew that we had a wonderful team. We knew we had a wonderful team. But it was, to me, 2003 was one of those seasons that, when you start getting rolling. At the very beginning, it's like, okay, look, we got to do this. And then all of a sudden there's a point of confidence. Like, look, man, we're unstoppable. The only one that's going to beat us is us. And so when you start having that sentiment like that in the locker room, in the meeting rooms, that's a great place to be. And so we knew that, at that point, early on in the season that, we had all these different weapons around, man. All the guys, I look at it like all the guys were healthy, just playing at a high level. And, the fans were just incredible. But it was an atmosphere that any team would want to be in. And the greatest part of it was when we were rolling and we was undefeated. That whole, I think of 2000 when Chad Johnson made the prediction about, getting this guy, we're going to beat him. Like, we didn't really care about that. Our sights was set on, one thing, one goal only, and that was the Super Bowl. So, unfortunately, we lost that game, and it was just like, okay, all right, we got this. But it was like, all right, let's get this out of the way, because then everybody was kind of talking about like going undefeated and all these other things that we were, kind of gets to that conversation when you're undefeated at the point. But we knew we still had, a difficult task when we had to make the playoffs. And that was like one of the things that you really was on the radar. Like, look, you still have Peyton Manning out here that you had to, contend with, if he makes it. And all the other ones in the AFC, we didn't really, care about the ones that's playing in our division as much. I think we pretty much knew that we had their number, going in. Raiders was always going to be a hard game, and Denver was going to be a hard game. Yeah. But we just didn't feel like they had the firepower that we had. So, but 2003 to me, man, was just it was a great season, but just a disappointment of not being able to finish it up and win a Super Bowl was the most disappointing thing. I think at that time and that moment, without a doubt, I think was one of the best Chiefs teams ever, in my estimation.
Eric and I talked about that no punt game, and he gave me, from a defensive perspective, the whole no punt thing as a defensive player, it's kind of a hard one to swallow. As an offensive player, did you guys ever at the sideline at any point in time, whether it was with your teammates or the coaches, did the topic of no punts ever come up, in the third or fourth quarter of that game?
No. You don't talk about things like that. I mean, because punting is just a regular faction of what you do in a game, yeah. Right? It's just that's why you get like all three phases of the game prepared, right? Offense, defense, special teams. So that's a natural process. You just think, you're going to punt anyway. And to be honest with you, I guess when you're in an offensive mindset and you're just moving the football, you're scoring touchdowns, you're not even, like the punting thing didn't even really come up, because you're just so in tune to what you're doing right now. And so I think, when it starts saying like, well, we ain't punted this game and stuff like that, I think when you look back on it, I know after the game was up, like, man, we didn't punt at all. But like I said, at that moment, we were playing at a high level. Man, Priest was a workhorse in the backfield. I mean, Trent was just throwing darts out there. Guys are just, catching, balls and just making moves. Man, we were rolling. We were absolutely rolling. And the thing is, we knew it was going to be a shootout with Peyton anyway.
Yeah.
We had a lot of confidence in our defense, and I know E said, it was kind of disappointing, but we had confidence in our defense. We really did. Unfortunately, it didn't get to happen. And then, of course, Priest fumbling, was another thing that rarely happens. Priest, he never fumbles a football. It really happens with Priest. And so it was just one of those things that was kind of unfortunate, to happen. But yeah, no punts in the game. I would have never thought in a million years something like that would happen. So yeah, you don't think about things like that.
What was it like playing for Dick Vermeil? Because like I said, that was the time where I really started to get into football. And one of the things that I picked up on and learned about it from reading in the media and whatnot was, how much confidence and faith he had in players. He was always willing to give players multiple chances. Whereas when Herm Edwards took over, he wasn't willing to give as many chances. And I think certain examples were used with Junior Seavey, if I'm saying his last name correctly. Yeah. I remember Herm didn't really give him a whole lot of chances and cut him when he felt like he couldn't make it on the team, whereas Vermeil was really wanting to explore multiple opportunities. Can you kind of talk about what it was like playing under Vermeil and what made him so unique to other coaches that you had played for before?
I believe part of it was perspective and experience. And Coach Vermeil, just having conversations with him, talks about his first tenure when he was in Philadelphia and how he did it, kind of what he went through, work ethic, his expectation around his coaches and the team. And he realized, I think, sometimes when you get into it, you just want to do so well. And it's always like punching that clock in. So it's like one of those things like, be the first one in, the last one to leave. And, he kind of talks about when sometimes coaches always wants to see who's the last one in there. It's almost like hey, look, I'm putting more time in than you, right? And I remember him saying like, look, you know what? This is X and O's. There's nothing much more that you can be able to do, staying in the coach's locker room, in the meeting rooms till 12 or 2 o'clock in the morning. It's just not that much football to watch. I mean, you can always watch film, but sometimes the importance is also family. And I think that was unique to Coach Vermeil because he understood the importance of having family around you, having family time because of his first tenure in Philadelphia. And so his perspective changed when he went into being a TV analyst, sportscaster for a long time, and then got back into coaching, and he wanted to do it differently. And what he could see was, his family was getting older, things he missed out on. So I think he realized some of the things that he missed out because of wanting to do so much more on the football field and the coaches. And so he took a different approach. I know when he got to St. Louis, but when he came to Kansas City, He was all about family. He was like, look, guys, look, get your work done. I want the coaches to get the work done. I want all that work done between this amount of time. After that, go home. I want you just to, decompress, get away from the stress, go home. Because I think, just being able to have some type of therapeutic feel of dealing with the stresses of just playing in the NFL and just the media and all these different things. I mean, guys just need to be able to just get away from that environment sometimes, right? And sometimes where we have it, I don't know if you have kids or not, but sometimes just seeing the joy in your kids' faces, and just watching them grow up is memories that you just won't be able to get back. And I think he understood that. So that was his perspective of saying, like, listen, you know what? The first time I tried to do it was just one of those just hard driving, putting time in all the time and just worried about football and wins. But he started realizing that also football is a microcosm of life. And so it's the same thing that we got to pay attention to details. And so paying attention to our family and our family's health and our own mental health and our own things that we should be doing is going to be beneficial. And it's going to help us out on the field. And he realized that. And he was so gracious that he was able to kind of incorporate that into what we wanted to do out there on the field as far as having a family atmosphere. So that was his difference, I think, with Herm. It was just his perspective, that experience of just being in the league for so long and just seeing how coaches did it and how they were treating some other coaches. And he really didn't want to get into that, his second part of his career of coaching.
You did mention, you alluded to Chad Johnson in the comment he made earlier. I don't know if you're a boxing fan or if you have any interest in that Floyd Mayweather, whichever Paul brother he's fighting tonight. I just learned this morning. Chad Johnson is on that card. I did not. Did you know that?
I heard him talking about it. I didn't know exactly, because somebody told me about it. It's like, hey, man, you're going to check your boxing out tomorrow. And I think, man, it's a publicity stunt, man. It's, the whole Jake Paul and I mean, it's whatever. It's whatever. Yeah. I'm just kind of over that whole deal. It was fun when he was Nate Robinson, all these like this, but he's getting in there with Mayweather. Hey, look, be prepared, get your chin ready, because he's gonna do some chin checking. I'm sure. Look, Floyd's gonna make it an entertainment event. That's what it's gonna do. So he's gonna take it easy on the guy, but it's all about entertainment. You drumming up. He wants to get both of them paid. So we know how the whole marketing with these guys go. But Chad, I want to see Chad out there because he was talking about on the athlete things that I catch it every once in a while. He's talking about boxing, and here it is. So it'll be interesting to see him go out there and fight. I might check it out just for that. So I'm glad you said it because I wouldn't. If somebody didn't tell me about it yesterday, I would have completely missed it today. To be honest with you.
Honestly, I didn't even know it was on a Sunday. For some reason, these events are usually on a Saturday. Like I'm a huge Saturday. UFC fan, and almost all their events on a Saturday. But I just remember to bring that up because you mentioned Chad earlier. A lot of questions were coming in, and I had a couple of questions as well about Tony Gonzalez. You, of course, probably worked with him or talked to him the most out of anyone on your team, I would imagine. What was it like just being around Tony Gonzalez and being able to see him accomplish a lot of the things that he's done as a tight end?
What was it like? I don't know, man. It's like being around your brother. Really. You just your brother, your friend, your pals, man. We just spend a lot of time together. In the room, off the field. Going to eat, man. Just knowing families is family. So with Tony, man, Tony's such a good-hearted guy. He's kind of quiet. I know he's kind of misunderstood. And it's, it's a little different because everybody's looking from the lens of being sports fans or whatnot, so he's just real people. He's just down to earth like everybody else, man. He really is. And so we used to have a lot of fun, man, in our meeting rooms with each other, just on the team and just talking, man, just talking about life, philosophy, all type of things, just messes and everything. But Tony, man, like I said, man, he's a good-hearted guy. I say, man, he has a tremendous heart as far as a person. So he's, very great character person. Work ethic. When you're talking about being a consummate pro and what he would bring out there to the game, and we would lift with each other after our practices. Of course, we catch balls after practice, and so his routine was one that he was always setting himself up for success. And I think part of what great ones do is there's a sense of like what's driving you is not to be successful, right? So one, like, I can't fail. I'm not trying to fail. I got to improve on everything else I've been doing to become better, become the best. And he was just working on that every single day, and everything that he was doing out there on the field. It was in the weight room. His eating habits changed. And so, playing with Tony, man, was just, it was a joy to watch. It was a real joy to watch, man, because there was things he was just doing out there that I was just like, man, look, like that's some special stuff right there. That's some special stuff.
Well, I remember. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, it was good because we was able to rub off each other. A lot of the things we did, especially, playing the same position. We talk about, route running, blocks, helping out. I mean, because we just, we're talking the same language, being on the same page, everything that we're doing. And we're constantly, ragging against each other all the time. I mean, just jokes being thrown constantly. I mean, it's just nonstop, man, nonstop. So.
Well, I think what's so interesting about Tony, I remember the 2008 season when the Chiefs went 2-14. He made a comment in the media about how he's going to be optimistic no matter what. Even as things got really rough, they got to a third string quarterback. He was still saying a lot of positive things about Tyler Thigpen in the media. And I remember in his first off season with the Falcons, he called Matt Ryan the best quarterback he had ever been with. And look, not that, players generally throw their teammates under the bus, no matter how tough things might get. But was he just always that optimistic kind of guy that maybe you guys could maybe lean on when you needed him the most?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Anytime we needed, maybe a first down or a big catch, I mean, we was going to call 88's number. And we knew just having that, in your pocket at the time you needed it, he's going to come up big. And he was one of those guys that was able to shine in those times, those situations, because we watched him do it out in practice. And like I said, I knew his mindset. Most guys' mindsets out there is like, look, I'm going to win in any situation, So a lot of guys say it, some guys do it. And so he was one of those, not just said it, but he was going to show it and do it. And so he didn't care if you had two guys draped on him. It didn't mind to him. And that was a great thing for Trent to have, because Trent was like, look, if I throw this ball up, well, only he can catch it or throw it somewhere near, 88's going to snag it to go get it. But that's a testament to what his work ethic was out there on the football field, every single day of practice. So on the sideline, he's sitting over there catching, 200, 300 balls a day, maybe like when the defense is out there and on the scout team, he's still on the sideline catching footballs. He's catching it from different points, right? Different angles. And so he just constantly worked on his craft. And so if it wasn't just me throwing football to him, he had some of the strength coaches throwing footballs to him on the side, but he constantly worked on his craft. So sometimes people see it's like, oh man, it's great talent. He worked to get to where he was at. He worked to be the best tight end to ever play the game. And so, it wasn't by no measure when you're sitting there thinking like in a game, we're down and we need a first down. We knew we were going to call out 88. I mean, it was just, and everybody on the team knew. It's like, well, look, we throw it to Tommy, he's going to make the play. He's going to make the play. So that's the same thing. Like I said, it's a good place to be when you have somebody like Tony. You got somebody like Trent was just very particular, like throwing the football too, man. I don't think people realize and appreciate how great a quarterback Trent was. And I just want to, give an ode to Trent right now, man, about how great he was. I know what you said about Matt Ryan, but Trent was a great quarterback too, in his own right. So I know Tony, saying that as far as, Matt Ryan, and part of that could be, well, look, that's where I'm playing at now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
He's the best running back I ever played against. What are you going to say, that the guy's terrible? He's the second.
It's kind of like he got lit up for that comment. I guess he was at the Super Bowl in Atlanta a couple years ago, and he said Atlanta made my career. I mean, the local media was asking him, and I guess Chiefs fans got all worked up, which honestly, I think that's a really silly thing to get all upset about. But yeah, I mean, like, what are you going to say? No, he's the second best quarterback I ever played with. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, and actually, when he said it, we got on him a little bit. Me and Billy. I just said, look, man, you can't say that. Yeah, wait a minute, hold on. You cannot say that. And look, I understand he's trying to be politically correct, right? That's your market now that you're dealing with. And maybe some things there that he has sentiments that he was expressing on a whole other level, a whole deeper level that people didn't really know too much about, and I might not expound on that right now. I don't know, but I'm just saying that we got on him, like his brothers do. You call him, but hey man, what are you doing? What are you talking about? Like what, man? I'm like, look, man, you just left out a whole swathe of people out here in Kansas City that's watching this, that realize that you was birthed over here, made your career in Kansas City. Like you can do both, right?
Yeah.
You can still celebrate Atlanta, but still pay homage to, where you cut your teeth at, where you actually made your career. And I think he knows that. And I think it's why, he's able to come back and make amends. Sometimes when you say things, you can't come back to you, right? It's like, oh, well, I try to walk it back, but it may be too late.
Mm-hmm.
So in a moment when somebody's putting a microphone in your face, you just kind of like, well, how do you like my cooking? Oh, it was the greatest steak I ever had in my life. Oh, it was absolutely wonderful. Best thing ever, right? So, you go home and your wife was like, what are you talking about? Wait a minute, hold on. I cooked you steaks, these past 20 years. What do you mean? Like, well, I didn't mean that. I was just saying because I had to say. So that's what I look at it for, what Tony was saying. But by no means he was taken away from his time in Kansas City, his respect and his time that he was able to do what he did on the field for those fans, and he knew it. He was a pillar of the community. He loved every moment of it. So yeah, I know what you were saying. Like, don't take it as a slight, but sometimes everybody gets in their feelings like, oh man, that hurts. And like I said, knowingly, I know he was like, okay, I could have just paused a little bit, right? So
I didn't realize that. That's good to know. I didn't realize you guys got him on that. I'm sure a lot of Chiefs fans would like to, because anytime I mention Tony, there's always like one or two people that's like, I mean, they're like, nope, I don't accept him at all. And Chiefs, it's like, okay, calm down. It wasn't that terrible of a thing he said. I guess now would be a good question to go to our some of our fan questions. Again, if you guys are watching live on the Facebook page, so we're on my page right now, also the Real Kansas City Chiefs fans Facebook page. Sean asked, how did he help Tony Gonzalez in his blocking? Were there ever times where you would work on that kind of thing with Tony?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We worked on it on a daily basis. Just we talked about footwork, technique. My thing was hand placement, ad placement, and so we would talk about these things all the time. It was like, hey man, how do you what's your technique of reaching this guy? Like if I'm trying to get him, I'm like, shoot, we'll just have to just try to work over him a little bit more. You know what I mean? And so we were constantly rubbing off each other, how to get better in every aspect that we did. So it wasn't just like the running game, but the same thing, the passing game. I'm just watching how he's breaking out of his routes. And I'm looking at what foot he's cutting off of and how he's making a cut, and maybe how he's setting the guy up. I was like, yeah, that's a good setup right there. That was perfect. I said, look, if I go here and I try to set him up this way, what do you think about doing this? And so we would always constantly just, do that, trying to get each other better. So some of the things I was did on the field, and he would see me, he was like, man, Jay, I don't know how you made that block right there. And I was in all the things he was doing out there on the football field. But that's we were constantly doing that to get each other better, in our processes of being professionals.
While we're sticking on the subject of the tight end position, Ryan had a question. He says, how much work did you put into your blocking game, and do you feel you were underutilized as a pass catcher?
That's a good question. That's a real good question. Real good question. Well, I'll say this, and I'll go back to my history of being in Philadelphia. I was a starter. I was catching footballs out in Philadelphia, and after I had my knee injuries, obviously my speed wasn't what it used to be when I was in Philadelphia. And so when I got to Kansas City under Gunther was just talking about, hey, look, Jason, man, great player, love playing against you. I just remember what you did, against us when we came up here to Philadelphia. And so when we were just talking offensively, I knew, we had a guy with Tony, catching the football. He's going to catch most of the footballs out there. And so what I ended up doing is I just kind of decided to, cut out a little bit of what I can do, on my side. And so blocking became my forte. So I'm just like, okay, if I'm not going to be utilizing the passing game as much, I was always a good blocker. I would always say that. I was always a good blocker. I learned from the best, Ed West and Jimmy Johnson, learned how to block, big guys when I was a lot smaller. And so when I came out in Kansas City and I was playing around about 270, blocking defensive end at that point, man, was just, that was my focus, So my job was to make sure Trent has enough time to throw the football, get out in the routes when I'm out there and make, the least amount of passes I get, make sure they count, right? So of course everybody wants to catch more balls. I'm just, I'm catch more footballs. That's just part of it. But I understood the importance, and I know the team understand my importance as far as being a blocking tight end, helping out Priest, getting the yards, and helping our offense be what it was. And so I was very fortunate to have guys that appreciated me for what I did. Even though, because everybody looks at, tight ends, how many footballs you catching? Well, shoot, how many yards is Priest getting? And so I look at my my body of work of having practically every running back I've had behind me have gained over 1,000 yards in the season and better. So I look at that. I take pride in that, and I was very fortunate like that to have a great offensive line, but also to me to contribute in that aspect of the game where these guys are able to get in the end zone and guys recognize me for what I did.
What happened after your time in Kansas City? Because if I'm not mistaken, I know on the 2007 team, you weren't with the Chiefs, but I believe, and I did cover the team in person, attending games in the media, but the press box. I thought I spotted you on the sideline, and I thought I maybe saw you in the locker room for a couple of those games as well. Did you keep in close contact with the team in 07, even though you weren't playing for them that year?
Well, I played in 07. I played in 07.
You did?
I did. Yeah, I played in 07.
Oh, okay. Oh, I meant 08. I'm sorry. I meant 08.
Yeah, 08, 09 season. I kept in close contact. Yeah, because I was still kind of back and forth between Kansas City and Kentucky. So I came out to, a few games, but that was pretty much it, But I was kind of in that mode. Like I'd have been in the league, really 12 seasons, played for 11 when the one I had hurt. I was already in the mode of like, retirement. I was coming home, being dad, being a father. And so I knew Kansas City had already gotten what they needed out of me. And teams were still calling me at that moment. They were still calling me. So I had still 2 years where I had like this grace period to teams were still calling like, hey, Jason, you're still thinking about playing. Love to have you here. And so that was one of the things that when you leave an organization, you kind of, you still stay in touch, stay in reach, when you need to. But I was already kind of in that mode of like transitioning of moving on out of Kansas City, because I didn't know where I could have been. I could have been, like I said, I had New Orleans call me, Minnesota, some other, other teams that had called. It was like, hey, Jason, what do you think about doing? So I knew that my home base had to be here in Kentucky. So I just came back home, my home base.
Okay.
And got back out of Kansas City.
I know you've done some coaching the past few years since you retired from the NFL. Talk about that experience. How did you get into that, and how do you like the coaching aspect of the game?
I love it. I love the coaching aspect of the game. It kind of when I retired, came back to Kentucky. I was taking my son up to practice, and so the coach had played at a college that we attended. He was a lot younger than me. Was asking, "Hey man, have you thought about getting into coaching?" I was like, "Yeah, but not really. I just down at this moment, I just like watching. I just want to watch." And so I remember bringing my son to another practice. He's like, "Hey, look, we need another coach. I'd love to have you on the staff. If there's something that you want to do, love to have you. Can you, please think about it." And so I considered it, and I finally went ahead and said, "Yeah, I'll go ahead and do it." And I instantly fell in love with it. I fell in love just with, able to share information, just being around, the kids, and just seeing all the joy that they had. And then also too, just having a connection of just with football, of kind of playing. So I was just like, okay, I'm not playing football, but I'm still around it. I'm still part of it. And, coaching kind of gives you, that level of comfort, at least for me, it did. So I coached high school football here for 3.5, 4 years. And then I went on and I coached at Kentucky State University for 4 years up there as well. And then my last 2 years, I just got finished coaching my son in junior high. And so I've been on kind of all levels of coaching. Hadn't got up to the NFL yet. I don't know as far as, I put in for a couple of internships. I got a couple of bites. Didn't really, happen the way that, I thought it would, which is fine. But I'm at a good place, man. But coaching, man, was allowed me to still be a part of the game, but it's still, give my knowledge to everybody around and help all the ones around me that may have aspirations to go to the NFL or just going into college. I was really, really happy to be a part of that. So that's what I loved about it. We
talked about this a little bit before we went live. I know in Kansas City you started Dunn for Kids, and you're still continuing with that, if I'm not mistaken. Talk about that. What is Dunn for Kids about?
So Dunn for Kids is my foundation. When I was in Kansas City, started in 2003. I was in coalition with the Salvation Army, so I was doing some work for them, and was helping. Raising money and giving scholarships out to widows of military families and their children. Then, of course, like to the youth in inner city, giving out scholarships as well. And one of the things I wanted to do and expound on is I brought it out here to Kentucky and wanted to bring it back home and work more in this community here. And so what I found out was, being in the coaching realm, there's just a lot of need. There's a lot of need for information to be passed on to kids to be able to get to the next level. So whether it's junior high going into high school going into college, I wanted to be able to reach out and help kids in that regard. And so Dunn for Kids is my foundation I'm bringing here, and I'm trying to get off the ground as far as this new entity. A part of it is taking this information to schools. I want to take it more to schools and getting out of the coaching realm of just helping just one team. Now I want to help out as many teams as possible. So when just one team has Coach Dunn, or just K-State having Coach Dunn with the resources and the knowledge to kind of get them to the school, because I could just see that there was a lot of things that parents didn't know and the kids didn't know of trying to navigate life, especially at that time from like high school to college. And so me helping out like with the academics and the clearinghouse to get kids into school, I'm like, look, you know what, there's a need here. And to help kids navigate their life right now is so pivotal for them that it needs to be brought to them. So that was my thing for Dunn for Kids now, that's going out here to help as many kids as possible, giving as much information, men, and girls, just give them the knowledge that they need to say, hey, look, we're talking about, being a champion. We're talking about, financial literacy. We're talking about academics. We're talking about character. We're talking about all these good things that all of us have difficulty with, that we want to be able to try to get better. And part of that is just holding each other accountable with these things in our life and having somebody to hold us accountable. So I've been talking to a lot of like-minded, men, and just kind of talking about the things, of course, faith that's done in my life, but also too, what I've just been immensely blessed with as far as being able to play in the NFL, but, the mindset, the mental strength that you need to have to persevere over some of these difficulties that we face in life. So that's kind of what Done for Kids is. So I'm still doing the things as far as like, some of the work with the Salvation Army, but now I want to move into a different realm where I'm just helping out even more kids. And I think that, this day and age, man, that's what's needed. Yeah. You just see so much in this world today, man, of just so much hate and so much divisiveness. And it's just so crazy that we constantly let all these divisive talks come up. It's always the fringe here, and some of the stuff ain't even fringe. It's the mainstream that's talking this way. And, I want to make sure that we're trying to invoke and imbue love and acceptance, and talking with each other as opposed, over each other, and just past each other. And that's part of the problem is we just don't sit down and have a conversation to try to understand one another, right? It's not to say we have to agree on everything, but at least let's get some information, and think critically about these things. And hopefully, all of lives, every single life is being uplifted. So that's pretty much kind of a nutshell what Done for Kids is. And I'm really, really excited to what things are to come.
That's awesome. And no, I 100% agree with you. I mean, I think we do a lot of too much talking over the other person and not wanting to hear out the other side, unfortunately, in so many areas. So, yeah, I've been saying this, and I mean, you just said it as well. I've been saying it for a while. The more people hear each other out, let the other person talk, take turns, that kind of thing. But no one wants to do that, unfortunately. Hopefully we can find a path to that point, because that's definitely what we need in our society for sure.
Absolutely.
Let me real quickly check and see if there are any other questions. Brent had a question. He wanted to know who was the most feared player on the field when you played, as opposed to now, and how would they compare? Was there anybody that you guys feared?
Guys that we feared. I don't know if that's a good word. I don't know if it's the operative word to use right now. Feared. Maybe concerned about, maybe, because there was good players. I mean, you're going to have guys like that in the NFL, right? I mean, we play Baltimore, obviously, Ray Lewis is one of the guys that you always got to, know and be aware of where he's at on the field. He's one. Ed Reed is another one. Playing our own division, man. We're talking about linebacker from Denver. I just lost his name. But he was in the middle, man. He was a heck of a player. Can't think of his name, man. So
I'm gonna try to look at it. Are you talking about DJ Williams?
No. Man, it just hit me again. I got it. He played at Tennessee, middle linebacker. But he was another guy that you had to be aware of. And of course, during those times, man, we had, in San Diego, some of the other guys that, you had to.
Oh, you're talking about Al Wilson.
Big Al, man. I don't know how I forgot Al. So, Hammerhead, as you used to call Al, man. Hammerhead. So, Al, man, was a great player. And so I don't know as far as like feared. I wouldn't use word feared. I don't think no guys out there fearing anybody out there. If you fearing guys out there on the field, you don't need to play. Don't even come out the locker room. Okay? No. Are you worried about how great they are? Sure. But that's just another realm and opportunity for you to show how good you are. But yeah, that would probably be it.
Ryan asked another question. What memories stick out to you from the 8 rushing touchdown game against Atlanta? Because they were number 1 against the run, if I'm not mistaken, going into that game.
Oh yeah. I remember the discussion in the meetings the entire week about how great their defense was, and so it was said in the meetings like, hey, you know what? They bring these teams in, Michael Vick, and they're killing folks out here. They saying, they're the best defense ever played. Look, you got a challenge in front of you. And so I just know it would just constantly just, burn us in our heads the whole week. It was just in there saying, like, look, man, it ain't gonna happen here, first off, in our own home. It's just not gonna happen, for one. All right. And number 2, it ain't gonna happen with all the guys we got in this room. Okay. Number 2. So I think we just took it as a challenge and took it upon ourselves, man, to really go out there and kind of make an example of Atlanta. Let me put it that way. And so we put our game plan together, man. We put our hard hats on, strapped up, man, and we just went to work. And I just remember it was just constant, just cheers that whole game. And you could see it. You could see it in the huddle. The guys get in the huddle, man. You could just see the business on each other's face. Like usually, sometimes you get in the huddles, guys are just kind of loose and stuff. But everybody, look, they brought their business suits, their briefcases, and everybody was going to work that game. And you could just see it. When Tree came in, everybody was just tuned in to see okay, let's go. Let's get this going, right? Sprint to the line, man, and we just started whooping tail. Man. The priest, that joker went and hit his head on the goalpost, 4 or 5 times. Then Derek Blaylock came in, old Mookie. We call Mookie Blaylock, said Derek came in and got like another 3 touchdowns, I think. And I said, we let everybody score that game. I think we even let the manager come in, put some pads on and let him score a couple of touchdowns. But I just remember, man, how that first half, man, we were just absolutely lighting them up on the field. We were just taking them up and down the field, man, and just had our way with them. We did. And so Mike, we had a great game plan against Mike too, because he was ineffective against the defense. And so was the thing, man. Sometimes certain teams, and that's another guy we're talking about being aware of, like Michael Vick. Look, you don't contain him, he's going to kill you. So now all of a sudden he has this great defense behind him, right? That's number 1. Hey, not in Arrowhead, not in our house, not going to happen. So, hey, we put the war paint on. Go to work, baby. Go to work.
I completely had forgot about this. I was just thinking about this earlier today. You mentioned you were on the team 2007. That was your last year with the team. That was also the year you guys were on Hard Knocks, and there was a very memorable episode 1. Somebody voiced their displeasure of being on the second floor, which happened to be you.
Yes.
Was that blown out of proportion on TV, or were you really upset about the whole situation?
Oh no, I was pissed. I was absolutely pissed. And the crazy part is, we usually have room assignments every single year, and so I've always had the first room on the first floor, and Coach Ramil gave me that. And so that's just where I was. Everybody knew it. And Coach, here's the funny part. Coach gave me the first floor room because he's just like, Jason, look, I know you're going to try to sleep in at the very last minute. All right. So I want you to get all your rest in. Okay. And I want you to be the first one to get out of the room when you have to, when it's fast. So that was one of the things. So I was thankful for that, because Coach Real knew me. He did. He knew me. He would just tickled at me, and I just love Coach Mill for it. But when I came up to camp, and I'm going to my room, right? I already knew always the guys that's coming in new, or somebody trying to find out whether they're on the second floor, third, or fourth floor, and I'm like, I'm looking at my key. It's like 2-something. 2. I'm like, what is this? Oh, I must have picked up the wrong package, right? So I go back. And the front desk is like, hey, Jason, look, I don't know what to tell you. Like, this is what the assignments are. I'm like, are you serious? He's like, yeah. So I'm like, oh, heck no, this ain't gonna happen. So I leave. So I go straight to the coach's dorm, right? Straight over to the coach's dorm. And so go to the coach's dorm. It was kind of funny because it seemed like it was just set up. Well, the cameras were everywhere. It was just so, it was really uncomfortable because the camera was up. So it seemed like it was almost kind of like a setup in a sense, like they just always wanted that juicy coverage of space. So I go over, I come and I knock on the coach's door in that meeting. So, all the coaches are in there, talking, getting ready for, and I come in, I'm like, hey, JD, what's going on? I'm like, nah, I'm good. Herm, can I talk to you real quick? Yeah, JD, wait, just wait for us. I'll be right out there. I said, all right. So I come out. And so I wasn't the only one. So it was me, Jared Allen was another guy. Jared was out there too. He's just like, man, I don't understand it. So I don't think they didn't capture that part of him being out there, being upset about his room at the time. But I know, I'm like, look, I done earned my stripes. There's no question. I am not going to be on the second floor. So Herm comes out, cameras is on us. I'm like, yo, Herm, what's the deal? Like, they said, these are the room assignments, and they got me on the second floor. My room is always the first room on the first floor. It hasn't changed since I've been here in Kansas City in the past 8 years. Well, JD, I was just thinking that, you're not practicing, because I was hurt because of my back, you're not practicing. And so, you don't really have to do anything. So I was just going to kind of give the first floor to the guys that are practicing. I said, wait a minute, hold on, Herb. Time out. First off, those guys practicing, they will be so blessed to get to where I'm at, okay? A guy that's been here 11 years. These guys that have been here 2 or 3 years, I don't care about their legs. They got young legs. And I don't even care if I'm practicing or not. These right here are stripes earned. That's my privilege. I am a first floor guy. It's not even a debate. I said, man, shoot, you should know this. Being a coach, you should know that a guy earns his stripes. You wouldn't do anything like that. You wouldn't accept anything like that. He's like, yeah, JD, but I was just thinking, man, look, I tell you what. He said, I know we was trying to work out, I think, Larry's deal at the time and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Larry, I said, well, Larry ain't even here. And he's got a first floor. So you're trying to appease him? But yeah, I'm here. I'm not practicing. And you give me a second floor. So he's like, JD, he said, look, man, I'll tell you this. He said, man, I promise you, as soon as you start practicing, man, I'll give you your first floor, stuff like that. I said, no. I said, I don't know. So we was back and forth at it, but I was getting on him more. So they took a lot out of it, because they had me kind of getting on him a lot, right?
Oh, man.
And so I was like, look, man, I said, look, I'm gonna talk to you about this every single day until I'm on the first floor. Seriously. I said, you're wrong, Herm. You're wrong for this. He said, Jay, I get it. So I know you tried to work some things out, but I was pissed. I did. Matter of fact, I'll tell you this. When I went back to our dormitory, I refused to go get in my room. Matter of fact, I called home because I was going to take a flight. I was going to leave. I was ready to leave training camp because of that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but that was me and my emotions, pissed off, me and my pride, and my, And so what I did was, I was like, you know what? I had my brother was talking, one of my oldest brothers was talking to me. He said, look, man, I get it. I understand. Look, just maintain what you have to do and, just, bite the bullet for it. So thank God for him for talking me down, because I was on a flight from Minnesota back home to Kentucky. That's where I was headed until they got a situation like that. See, and that's just where I guess when you get, that privilege in you, just like that's my expectation. Well, yeah, anybody would have been pissed. So yeah, I was hot. I was absolutely pissed, and everybody knew it. All the guys, they said, oh shit, JD's pissed. He is hot. And so, yeah, I don't think a whole lot of guys had any rest, man, because I was up a storm during that time. But I settled with it, and I said, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna be on my own program. I'm gonna get my body right. I'm gonna get to where I need to be, and then, I don't even want to be on the first floor. I don't even want to be on the first floor anymore. Now my mindset down. I'm in a whole different warrior mindset now. So that's where I was at.
You mentioned the cameras. Have you ever seen Last Chance U on Netflix?
I have.
Yeah, I've become really good friends with Jason Brown, who was on seasons 3 and 4, and he was briefly of Kansas City Chief. I remember, but I know he's done some interviews, and he's going to be on the podcast later this month. And I do want to ask him about this. I know in some interviews he mentioned that the cameras were kind of a distraction, and that's why they really struggled the second season when they were on the show. Now, granted, I mean, those are college kids, and you guys are pros in the NFL, but you did allude to this. I mean, they see you're pissed off, and the cameras and the microphone. Oh, okay, let's go follow this guy. And I remember they were showing Damon Heward, and they were just following him while he's trying to talk to his family through Skype or whatever it was. What was it like when those cameras were following you? Because I think a lot of people have this perception of that Hard Knocks can be a distraction and it can kind of irritate the players. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely, 100%. I tell people this all the time, that year that we had Hard Knocks was probably one of the worst years that we had team-wise, just dealing with things. And a lot of it is, it's not just a distraction of it, but what you start finding out from guys is, everybody starts trying to play to the camera. Okay. So that's a lot of it. Everybody's trying to, become their own little, actor or Hollywood. Listen, look, we up here to do a job, okay? The cameras sometimes coming in and catching things, fine. But, being as intrusive as they are, complete distraction. And so it takes away from your focus on what it is that you have to do. And now all of a sudden you start becoming a ham to the camera. And Jason is absolutely right, man. It absolutely destroys teams. Absolutely destroys teams, because some guys just don't understand how to embrace having these things and not making a distraction. Because then all of a sudden the camera's in there and you're like trying to look at the camera and stuff like that. I'm just like, oh my God, this is just terrible. Nobody's paying attention like you should. And so what I've seen, and I'll say this, look, this is my opinion on it. I said, her coming from New York was a media guy. That's who he was, kind of a coach in a sense, because he hammed it up, played for the camera. I thought, and look, that's his personality, right? He's a colorful guy. He was a color analyst. That's who Herm was. So that's why he was very good on TV, because he could play to that. And I think that's why he might have accepted it. Because coming from a big media place like New York, he was more used to it. And so when you bringing these to, like you said, young guys, because you guys are still young, 21, 22 years old coming in the NFL.
Yeah, there were a lot of young guys on that team that year.
Yes. And the thing is, you have expectations of what you think the NFL is. And so what you do is you try to play to that, that character or actor or whoever you are, as opposed to being organic. And so you start seeing veteran players doing the same thing, right? And so the focus went off of what was going on the field to more so like, how am I going to look this week on Hard Knocks? Completely ridiculous. So, I mean, I was just against it. I think there probably needs a better job of how you control the cameras in itself, where they're able to do their work, kind of make it organic, where guys are not playing to it, but still not being so intrusive where, you're taking away from, guys being focused on what they need to do. But 100%, man. I mean, Jason, when you talk to him, you tell him Jason Dunn agrees. Jason Dunn absolutely agrees. Worst season ever with Kansas City. To me, it was that start that put us to where we were at that year. So
I remember John Embry. He has 2 kids, and I went to high school with his kids, and okay. I think word was he didn't care about the show, but he always got the gist from his kids, what made it on TV and whatnot. I would imagine in the hotel they didn't have HBO, but did you or did any of the players try to watch the show as it would air, or maybe the next day, just to see what was on HBO?
Yeah, I was finding guys were doing that. Guys was watching it. I didn't watch it. I was just like, man, look, first off, we're living it for one. Two, we got a job to do. I'm not, man, it's TV. It's, it's Hollywood. And so, like I said before, some of it is just playing to the cameras. You're not in your natural state like you want to be, right? Being yourself. There were some moments where, you do capture, because guys like me and Tony getting on each other. I'm going to say this, because they had a lot of times that we were getting on each other. And Tony had some of the creative process. They would ask him about him, what can I put on camera? And I was like, man, you missed a whole lot of me digging on him. Man. So it was like some of those things, as far as like the production part of it was a little crazy. But there's some funny moments that was captured. But ultimately, to me, I just feel like it was just a distraction. But that's TV.
Yeah,
that's how TV works, right?
Did you? Yeah, this is just self-interest because I become good friends with Jason. But did you and Jason Brown ever get to know each other? I know he was briefly with the team. I don't think he played a regular season game.
Yeah, I think Jason was there at the camp when I was up there.
Okay,
and so because when I seen it, he said it was in Kansas City. I'm trying to remember. I'm like, I think I do remember it.
He did mention it was the same year Larry Johnson was a rookie, so I think 2003 was when he was on the team.
Yeah, I remember it. And sometimes, man, when you see guys, and you get numbers, right? Very first time of like OTAs, training camp, it's numbers and guys, and you're trying to remember everybody's faces. And so, I know it's kind of difficult, but when he was talking about that, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, it's just I kind of remember, him being out there, because I think I remember them talking about like where he came from, because he's from Kansas area, right?
He's from Stockton, California, but he did play junior college in Kansas. Like, he's pretty familiar with the state of Kansas.
Okay, that's what it was. So play JUCO out there in Kansas. Okay, all right, yeah, because sometimes remember stories too, that's attributed to other guys. So I think that's what was part of it. Yeah, but I like Jason, man. I love the TV show. So sometimes, man, you gotta be careful. Gotta be careful with that camera, man. Gotta be careful.
He always said it wasn't the cameras that bothered him, it was the microphones. In fact, he said, I don't know if you listened to any of his interview. He was on Pat McAfee's show recently, but he said he doesn't even watch his own season. He's seen clips, but he says he can't. He knows that he said way too many crazy things because of the microphones, so he can't watch his own season of last year or any of the seasons for that matter.
Right, yeah. Because it's perception. That's what it is. It's perception. And sometimes people could create a narrative and show something. It's like, oh man, you got that on there, or you just, so it's, you got to kind of be careful. So yeah, man, that cameras, man, is something else. There's something else, and the microphones, right? Yeah. I mean, but sometimes, they're good and bad. Sometimes people catch things on microphones you never knew somebody thought about, right? You catch a hot mic and somebody saying something crazy. He's like, oh, well, I'm glad to expose who you were, right? Or catching the camera, so, I'm not saying that, camera stuff are bad all the time. I just say we have to be, cognizant of what we're doing, and who we are when we're out there, but still trying to be, natural in our state when we're doing these things.
A couple more questions before we let you go, Jason. As a tight end, I want to know from you, what are your thoughts on Travis Kelce? And listen, I remember when Tony Gonzalez was traded, a lot of people were really sad, upset, disappointed, so many different emotions, and thought, man, we just had the best tight end in NFL history, and we're not going to have a guy like this ever again. Well, Here you now have Travis Kelce. Can you talk about, from your perspective as a tight end, what you see in Kelce, and what are some of the big differences and similarities in the two guys?
So first I'll talk about Travis and some of the things that he does well that I'm really impressed with. Is when Travis is out there running the route, he's real fluid in his motion, and he didn't look like he's overly fast, or at least it didn't look like he's running fast, but he's gaining ground when he's doing it. And so he's able to do this at the same speed all the time. And so I'm not saying it's rare, but to have an ability to run full speed and come out of the break at full speed, catching the football, is something that is tough to do. And Tony had that ability as well. So the thing is, creating separation and getting open is an attribute that Travis has. And so Tony, he had the same thing, but they was very different in the way they were doing it. I think Tony ran with a lot more power, with what he was doing. He used a lot more basketball moves as far as nudging guys off, kind of bodying things up. And I'll say Travis is a little bit more, I don't want to say slippery, but he can maneuver his body. Man, he got some wiggle in his hips, man. He can make guys miss and move around to get open. And, I see linebackers constantly they're trying to put a hand on him. He gets around him, and he's on the other side of him. And he's just so fluid by how he does it. It's real graceful that he does it, man. So I really enjoy him when he's doing it that way. Similarities in Tony and Travis is the winning attitude, the confidence, right? Almost perceived as cockiness. But you see these guys just want to be the best out there on the field all the time. They just want to win. And so plus the intensity of it. Tony's was more of like a quiet intensity. He kind of was more an introvert, as far as his intensity out there on the field. I mean, Tony had these intense eyes. I mean, you could just see his, the steel of the glaze that he just focused on what he had to do, right? And so nobody's taking him out of that concentration. And Travis is another one where he's just so passionate when he's out there playing that every chance and opportunity he gets to beat guys, he just loves it. He relishes in it. You just see him. He just, man, and I love it because he gets up and he's just excited in the things that he's doing out there. So that's the similarities. But Travis, man, just coming on the scene, I really didn't see it coming, that he was going to be this good. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah. And it took maybe a couple of years. It's like, okay, man, this guy he's really good. So it's just not a fluke. Because sometimes you have a guy he's good 1 year, but then all of a sudden it's like, okay, he tapers off another year, so you wonder was it this, was it that? But now, man, he's kept it consistent. And I think a lot of it is just, his mindset and his skill set of just getting open, and able to run, with the football. So I call him the rubber man. He looks like the rubber man to me. He could bounce off and move his body in certain ways that you're like, well, why did he turned to catch it like that? But that's just him. That's how he does things.
Well, I remember there was one play, and I can't remember the game exactly. It was late in the year or it was early in the playoffs, but he catches a pass and he hardly moves an inch, and the defender just completely missed him. And I'm sure the defensive coaches hate that, but it's like, even things like that, it's like he didn't do anything. He just stood there, and it still impresses you the way he does it.
Man, and that's the subtle moves to be elusive, not to take the full hit. He does a great job of it. And I think it's part of why he doesn't get hurt a lot, and so that's another attribute that Tony and Travis have is durability. Look, Tony is a machine. I mean, he was an absolute machine, man. I mean, he was all muscle, and you couldn't hurt him. You couldn't hurt Tony. That was the thing about it, man. He was just strong and, big and powerful. And so he was just a guy that he would just take hits. He'd get right back up. And some guys, you just know that, oh, this guy, he ain't going to get up off this hit. And Tony would just shake it off like it was nothing. So his durability over his career is astronomical. You just don't find guys like that anymore. I mean, really. And I think people don't really understand that, his durability throughout his entire career, where he was able to stay out there on the field. And so Travis is doing the same, man. You don't see him being dinged up and hurt, because he is elusive. You don't let full hits come on him, right? And so he, like you said, he's able to, maneuver away from the full hits on those. So yeah, man, that's a special quality. That is an absolute special quality. Just to go through a football season and not get hurt. Yeah. I've seen it, man. Tony, shoot, like I said, that Joker, man, was absolutely incredible for not getting hurt. That's a blessing right there. So, but Travis, man, phenomenal player, phenomenal.
The last thing I wanted to ask you, the podcast you do, the Chiefs Concerns podcast with Marcus Dash and Eric Warfield, We talked about both guys earlier, and I'll give credit to Marcus because I remember he messaged me. His first episode, I think, was with Tyler Palco, who, like, I mean, not the most exciting guy to talk to, but he started somewhere and eventually built his way up. I believe he had you and Eric as guests, not at the same time, at separate times. And at some point, you guys all came together, did the podcast, and because of you and Eric and the guys you guys are connected to, you guys have had guys like Dick Vermeil, Dante Hall, Tom Bahali on the podcast. So kind of a two-part question here. Talk about how that trio came together for this podcast, and what has it been like for you to do this whole online deal and do the podcasting thing and connecting with fans on the internet?
Well, that was a perfect introduction. I mean, that's, I had an interview with Marcus, reached out to me. He had one with Eric, and I think our personalities just kind of clicked. It was just guys that you can kind of feel guys that just kind of easy to talk to.
Yeah.
You're like, hey man, this is a guy I could just sit in the room, have a beer with and have a great conversation. And so when he said, hey man, I'm thinking about doing, the full podcast. Would you want to host this with me? And I might ask Eric Warfield. I'm like, man, absolutely. I had a great time doing the podcast. And as you can know, I love talking anyway. I love just talking to people. But I said, man, would love to do it. And so once we got on and we thought we was initially just going to do it for the season. We didn't quite know how it was going to go. And it went well. And we just started growing. We started getting better with it, because it's a lot of work. Because, podcasts is a lot of work, and you gotta get into like how, the guests, what we're going to do, get prepared for these things.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, the difficulty comes in because, you got your regular life that you have to do, right? And so me, being a father, and I help out a lot of other people, just going, here and there. So, some of the things when I'm kind of out here on the podcast, it's me being raw and just having a conversation, because I'm just talking to the audience like I'm sitting there and we just, having a beer with each other. But man, it's been great. It's been great. So I got to know, Marcus real well. And, I know E anyway. And he is probably one of the best guys you could possibly know. I mean, he was always one of those guys that was just an easy guy on the team that was everybody's friend. And so, SE, man, he's he's a character, he's a cut up. But man, he's just a fun guy. That's his heart. That's who he is, just one of the best guys, man, that I know. And I'm thank you for it. And Marcus too. So those two guys, man, I love them. Great dudes. We have a ton of fun out there on the thing, and we get it, and we just looking to hopefully grow this even more. But yeah, I'm glad Marcus reached out to me. E was able to do it for me. And I know E's kind of like, all right, man, because sometimes, he runs, he plays a lot of golf. And I know sometimes like, dang, I got to do the podcast. But I think he enjoys it every time he gets on. I enjoy it every time I get on. So sometimes you get on it and it's like, oh man, I got to do this, right? The podcast right before. But then when you get on, you're like, hey, man, that's true. Good show. Well done. And so it's a good thing to just catch up with, guys that you play with, and just kind of, bring some of the great stories back, just seeing where their life is at. And to me, that's probably the most special thing is, catching up with former teammates, just talking to them. Sean Barber called me yesterday. We were just kind of talking about this, that he was saying that Coach Emile is going to be coming out to Kansas City. And he usually takes a lot of guys that still out in Kansas City, kind of takes them out to dinner and whatnot. And I was like, man, that's such a wonderful thing. That's just another testament who Coach Emile is. And so, we care about each other's families. We care about, one another, just checking in where guys are in their life. And, we just want to see that everybody is doing well. So we could just bring good content and maybe some of the things that people want to talk about, ask some of these questions. Never miss a beat, man. I love it.
No, I've listened to a couple episodes and some clips online as well. I really like your guys' podcast, and also Joe Valerio and Joe Fedotin. They do the Chiefs podcast on the Believe Network. Usually when you have former players, I think those are always more enjoyable because Yeah, I mean, they have a little more connections with bringing in guests and also their perspective on things. And they talk about the past and comparing it to how things are now. So those are always really enjoyable. So I really enjoy your podcast, and Marcus has done a really great job with that. I used to do a Chiefs podcast, and I'll tell you what, Marcus has done a much better job with that than I have with mine. So it's really great. I really do enjoy listening to you guys. Hey, Jason, before you go, I know you're on social media. Talk about that. How can fans connect with you, and how can people get involved with Done for Kids, or if there's a website for that?
Yeah, so we getting the website put up. I'm getting it all built up new for the Done for Kids. So I'll definitely be sharing. I'll be sharing it on my podcast even more. I'll probably send you something, man, and maybe you can share it on your Twitter account and stuff.
Absolutely, yeah, please do.
Yeah, and so here's the thing. So social media is not my strength, all right? It's not. And so I didn't really have a Twitter handle before all this started with the podcast and stuff. So I was asking Marcus, like, man, how do you do it, set this thing up? Same thing like Instagram. I'm not an Instagram guy. I think I got like maybe like 5 or 6 pictures and stuff. And I just started. I'll tell you when I started Instagram is when the Chiefs had the parade. For
the Chiefs had what?
The parade for the
okay, gotcha.
Championship parade, and I had this 15-year-old kid get me on Instagram to help me get my profile put together, because I was just like, man, look, I don't understand any of this stuff really. So Instagram, TikTok, all those different things, man. I'm not a real huge social media guy, so I'll get on it and I'll have my little time with it, and then I'll put it down. So. This thing right here, this phone, I'll put this thing down for like 2 or 3 hours in a day.
Good for you.
I won't even touch it. Yeah, seriously, man. I just, because I see people just constantly, and I know people want to get away from it, but it's the habit, right? You just get into the habit, and it's just like, hey, God, I just lost 2 or 3 hours, and where'd it go, right?
Exactly.
I could have been accomplishing so much more. And even if you're not doing anything, man, just relax. Get off social media, because people get angered. And I'm not even on Facebook. I don't even have a Facebook profile. So I know I hear a lot of craziness on Facebook. I'm like, really? It happened? Like, yeah. And I'm just like, you know what? This stuff right here is insanity. It is insanity, So, the lunacy of it, of just social media is, I try to use it for the good stuff. Let me put it that way. And so if I hear like share good stories, that's what I try to do. So I think my Twitter handle, man, I don't even know what it is. I think it's like Jason something.
Yeah, it is. I can help you out if you're Jasus TD89.
There you go.
What you are on Twitter.
Jasus TD89. Yeah. So I'm trying to get my followers up on Twitter, because I'm like, okay, let me get my followers up. So I just want more of this content to go out so guys can start following me, and maybe Instagram. So I'm gonna get more involved maybe with some of these things, but I'm not gonna let it take all my time away. Because I can see, man, it'll get you.
I mean, look, I've got more followers than you on Twitter, and that should not be the case at all. If you guys are not following Jason, go follow him. Jasus, it's spelled JASUS TD89 on Twitter. Go give him a follow on Twitter.
Well, appreciate it. And I'll go and follow it. That's a good thing. It's good to have. I guess and I see what the dangers of it is.
Oh, yeah.
Oh man, I got more followers. And you're constantly working to get more followers. But I like quality. I like quality content. I like people following me. Yeah, like, hey, yeah, why not? Fans of stuff. But hey, man, use it for all the good things, right? Spread love in this world. Okay.
Certainly cannot disagree with that. Hey, Jason, had so much fun talking to you. A lot of great stuff. We'll have to do this again sometime. Enjoy everything you're doing. We'll definitely tune into the podcast. Until then, we'll keep in touch. We'll do this again later.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Farzin. All right.
All right. That is Jason Dunn, former Kansas City Chiefs tight end, here with us on Farz Cast. Appreciate all of you guys who asked questions on the Facebook page. We'll try to do more of this with our future guests. Got a lot of people coming up. I mentioned Jason Brown coming up real soon. We'll be talking to him in the near future. Also, former Chief Scout Dan Shanka. He's going to be joining us as well real soon as well. Adam Pock from Big Brother 13, Morgan Ganem, and Jared McMullen, and Joe Valerio as well, former Chief as well. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe to the podcast. Share the links with your friends. Until then, enjoy your week. I will talk to you guys later. Take care.